Welcome back to the Grim Workshop. I've shown how to use the lockpick hook card. This is found in the SERE series of cards. And I've shown you on practice lock, I've shown you on the very common number 3 master lock. Today we're going to be looking at the lockpick rake card. So this is going to work in a similar principle, but raking is a little more aggressive. It is not going to work on all the locks, but when it works, it is pretty darn effective and it's very quick. If you've never picked a lock before, I really suggest you get one of these plastic training locks. These aren't quite the same thing, but they're pretty darn close, and they're going to show you what's actually happening inside the lock. Now, you're going to get the fastest results, the quickest, using the lockpick rake card. But you're going to actually kind of hinder your learning curve. The best way to learn to pick a lock is the single pin pick first. When you single pin pick, you're going to go in and you're going to address each pin individually without touching the other pins. So that's why I have such a variety of different shapes of hooks. Because I'm going to go in here, and when I touch lock pin number 1, I don't necessarily want to touch any others. And the same thing when I'm way back here in the back at number 5, I want to be on 5 and 5 alone. So when you're single pin picking, I'm going to have a tension wrench in here first, of course, but I'm going to push each of these pins up. So these pins are actually 2 pieces. There's a driver pin and there's a key pin, and you can see that dark line there. That's the different heights, and that different height is the bitting, and that is what makes each key specific for each lock. It's just a different combination of pins. So when you're single pin picking, you're only addressing one pin at a time. But when you're raking, you're addressing all the pins and you're using a little bit of luck to find the shear line. This is not going to work without a tension wrench. But you see here when I push this rake in, I'm just randomly pushing them up and down. And that's kind of the concept with it. You're just randomly pushing under tension, and you will find the right combination on most locks given enough time. Now, again, without a tension wrench, these pins are just going to bounce and reset. But when there's just a little bit of tension, as you pull this in and out, they are going to set and hold. So what a rake does, instead of worrying about one pin and its exact setting, you're saying, screw it, I'm just going to try to get all of them. So you're just bouncing this along, and this is kind of mimicking a key. So there's a couple different ways to do this. You can go all the way to the back without really touching the pins, lift them up, and just pull it and just rip. So probably the most common technique is just going to be just scrubbing it. So I'm just going to be pushing these things back and forth. And I am kind of going up and down. I'm rocking a little bit, but not so much. I'm just changing the tension. I'm changing the speed. I'm just trying to do anything I can to catch the pins at just the right angle. So you can also use this to rock. So when I rock, I'm just kind of wiggling a little bit. And I'm using a little more feel and less kinetic energy to get the lock to set. So we're all locked up. And I'm just going to go ahead and insert my tension wrench in the bottom of the keyway. And I'm going to give it just a short little rotation there, just fingertip pressure. And I'm able to get it open that quick. So this is the triple peak wave, and I'm going to go ahead and tension this again. And now I'm going to try to do more of a kinetic rip to it. So that was a little more aggressive, and it still got it done. And I'll just kind of rock this one. So I've got a 2-wave rake. So a little slower, I had a little more feel, but got the same results. So here's that number 3 again. It's all locked up. And when you encounter these in the field, you're not going to have a vise like I was. And when you're practicing, you're going to have that. So when I hold one, practicing, I'm tensioning up the same way. And I'm just kind of giving it fingertip pressure. Now I'm going to take my rake and try a couple different techniques with it. So if one doesn't work, I usually try to rock it first. If rocking it doesn't work, then I'll give it a couple quick kinetic pulls. Then I may scrub it. So you're just going to have to go back and forth until you find what technique works for which lock. So just to mix it up, I'm going to go back with that same tension wrench, and I'm going to grab a different rake. So here's the City Rake. That's actually one of my favorites. And it's going to be the same thing. Try a couple different ways. Each type of rake is going to have to be used a little bit differently on each type of lock. So it's just trial and error, and you're going to be varying the amount of tension that you're putting on with that tension wrench, and before you know it, you'll be popping these locks in no time.